was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation, and you are listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a podcast about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. Todd drinks because he gets to live here. I drink because I have to live here. And I'm sorry to not...
It's the drinking time of year. The August in the service industry in Ocean City, Delmarva area is heavily intoxicated.
And it would be inappropriate of me to not bring this up, and I'm sorry to bring this up because I didn't talk about this in the beginning. I forgot to. But if you are a company that donates dogs to police forces and you donate a dog to the Dorchester County Sheriff, you deserve to have your dog killed.
Oh, man.
That's all I have to say. So some moron, heartless, idiot sheriff left his dog in the fucking car and it died. And then rather than, take it to a vet so that it could be returned and they rushed it to a crematory and had it incinerated so that they wouldn't get caught.
Oh, man.
And now
guess what? They did get caught.
Well, they didn't. I mean, they're conducting an internal investigation. So fucking Jethro is checking Lee Clevis's story about, well, I thought the windows were open enough. Fuckers. Can't fucking believe that. I'm so sorry. I just read it. And it was so nice to see you after so many weeks. I forgot. But as soon as the podcast turns on, it's like, hey, me and Tony's here. Remember me? So we don't have to discuss it. It's disgusting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Disgusting. We're back and better than ever.
Back and better. Like I'm red. I was so happy to get started.
Would you get a notification that popped up, or did you have notes that you were going to refer to?
No. Neither. I had just read it before we got on. And I didn't even put it in my notes, but it just came back to me because we were talking about my trip to Kentucky, where at least they have the sense to leave the windows rolled down before they torture their dogs to death behind them. But you got to New Jersey, and New Jersey is always more interesting to me than anything else. So tell me about your New Jersey trip and what else you've been up to.
We were in 3 different towns on the Jersey Shore within 5 days. And not continuously. We went up to a family reunion on my wife Natalie's side of the family, the Italian side, that hasn't gotten together in some time. And, multi-generational things. It was just going to be the 3rd generation cousins. But as Italians do, everybody showed up. And we met on Wildwood Beach, where family used to have, or still has, a condo, rented a bunch of places, and caught up with family there. And it was, it was a good time. Before jumping off, obviously making a joke, like we planted an Italian flag in the middle of the beach so everyone would know where we were. And it wasn't the only Italian flag planted in the middle of the beach on Wildwood that weekend.
So if you ever end up in Wildwood again, I can highly recommend Russo's Deli for a sandwich.
Okay.
We went to Russo's Market. We got a sandwich and we got a bunch of hats that said Russo's Market.
You know what I like about Wildwood is it's big. It's a big town.
Yes,
and it's very spread out. It's very pedestrian and bike friendly.
Yes.
I don't know why they don't do this in Ocean City. Maybe they do, but look, you can ride bikes on the boardwalk. Boardwalk is twice as wide as the Ocean City boardwalk and probably twice as long. But you can ride bikes on the boardwalk until a certain time, like 12 o'clock or something like that. So,
right.
You ride up on the boardwalk, gets a little exercise. Shops don't really get going there until evening anyway, I believe. So, but it was great. We rode around, met up with some cousins. I'm almost certain we rode past Russo's Deli. But
Yeah, it's right there. It's if you're in the downtown, it's like it's a block or 2 blocks from the beach on the
yeah.
downtown, so
Do you know A&LP?
no.
Is that right? Is that okay? So that was the local deli that Natalie would frequent as a kid going to the shore. And I don't know if you ever had this sensation, but like you can imagine the smell of low tide. When I
Yes.
say that, it's a little rank. It's pretty distinct,
One
a
of
little
my favorite
pungent.
smells on the whole planet. Smells
So
like my home. I'm
yeah,
I'm
so
like Brer Rabbit when it comes to low tide.
that is exactly what Natalie said. You drive over these bridges and you're going through the marsh to get to Wildwood, and literally nostalgic for that stanky ass smell.
Yeah,
And um
very pleasant.
and yeah, so maybe that's where some of the Jersey sensibility comes from for
Yeah, that's why nobody people are like, "Ah, you think the chemicals are bad. You should live in a place where they have low tide."
yeah,
You know, because we do have a lot of they do have a lot of marshland and a lot of bays, it
yeah,
and it's and we live on them. It's not someplace we go on vacation. It's someplace where we live.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
we get used to that, and once you've grown up and that's the smell of home for you,
yeah.
the occasional industrial accident isn't really gonna bother you very much. Although,
Well, and
this is a problem my wife and I have, and it's a problem I have with, like, almost everyone on the planet. My personal hometown, is where they make, among other things, uh, fragrances. So, like, Chanel Number 5 and Flintstones vitamins and Tide or something. And so if you are wearing the right if you're wearing a shirt that was washed in too much of the right kind of detergent, you smell
yeah,
awful to me. You smell
exactly.
like you smell like the sewer 'cause sometimes there would be sewer backups. And that smell combined with the smell of the chemical plant is very,
Right.
very specific and locked into my head, and it is an unpleasant smell. So, like, if my wife I hardly use any detergent because if my wife uses too much detergent on my clothes, I have to rewash them. I can't stand the smell of detergent a lot of times,
Yeah.
depending upon which detergent it is, so and Flintstones vitamins.
Influence that yeah, that's a very nostalgic smell and chalky flavor that just is conjured in memory for but so back to New Jersey,
Time
Wildwood was
number 1.
wonderful, and it was fantastic. We actually came home. I worked up, at the restaurant at Fort Dent, and we went back on Tuesday for, our annual bike bar crawl with our friends from Dewey. Everybody piles on the ferry, out of Cape May or out of Lewis, and we take it over to Cape May, and we ride around bikes, and we go to, um, as many bars as we can, and have a great time. And we're just, a band of merry idiots, about 20 deep or so, and it's a good time. But this year, the following day was my birthday, and Natalie had gotten me tickets to go see, a show up at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, right? So no Bruce Springsteen, but that's where we headed. Before we went up to Asbury Park, though, we left the beer drinking crew or the bar crawl crew, and that we had ourselves a nice night in Cape May, and we went to a nice restaurant, place called the Ebbet Room, and we're fortunate enough to get a nice seat at the bar. It was a small little bar, and guy behind the counter, buttoned up, had a vest on. The only thing was like puffy sleeves,
Right.
and he was also training somebody. And this bar was, he was in a 6x6 box, right? It was mainly a service bar for the restaurant.
Right.
On Tuesday evening, it was very busy, and like I said, higher end clientele, good food, all of that. Had a delicious meal, and I wanted to ask you if you've ever heard this. Um, he referred to uh, he referred to a Fournette as Bartender's Handshake. And I
Oh,
think and I think this is how it went down because we're sitting there, we had a couple drinks, we weren't going anywhere. Natalie had a little after dinner something, and I was sitting right next to the liquor wall. And I go, you know what? I'll have an after dinner drink. I'll have a Fernet. I'd love if you could have one with me, but I don't imagine that's possible. And sure enough, we've been watching him hustle all night for throughout our meal. And he goes, you know what? Fuck it. And he pours himself a little shot. And again, this tiny little place, he like turns around with his back to everybody, opens the refrigerator door, almost sticks his head in to throw this back, hiding from view
right.
from anybody and everybody. And he goes, like, oh, that makes everything a little bit better. I love the bartender's handshake. And so I don't know if that is like offering a bartender a shot of Fernet is the handshake, or it is like me, doffing my cap, like or like unspoken service industry type talk. I mean, I know it became very popular in California. I know more and more bartenders over here that is like their preferred thing because it's an unusual taste and experience, but it's one that I feel like bartenders often partake in.
I just checked the internet. It is when one bartender like you bought him. Did he know you were a bartender?
I not mentioned, but I guess, the general vibe, right?
That's apparently the notion is when you're in the service industry and you buy another guy a drink, that's the
Yeah.
bartender's handshake.
There you go. So not specific to Fernet, but
No.
maybe that's the unspoken part. When you offer to buy somebody, not a lemon drop
Right.
or a Jaeger bomb, they recognize you as a professional.
Yes, and I love Fernet. It's I know it's an acquired taste, but it's a taste that I acquired a long time ago, so it's fine with me.
And it hasn't gone anywhere.
Uh, I went to, I went to Kentucky. I went to Lexington to visit with my niece. When she
Uh,
was little, we used to fly her down here, for a week, and now that she's a grown woman, she can't afford to take the time off to hang out with her dopey aunt and uncle.
yeah.
And I don't blame her. I mean, so this was the first year, but we're gonna do it every year. We're gonna go and visit her, where she works and hang out. And, we went to a very cool bar. We went to a French bar. I didn't know how French Lexington was.
Yeah.
I also didn't know
I
how
didn't know it was French
horsey
at
it
all.
was. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of French stuff in Lexington and lots of horse stuff in Lexington. Now, I
Okay.
know that that makes sense because apparently it's the thoroughbred breeding capital of the world, and the University of Kentucky's there, and that's where they do all of the, um, horse science. No hell knows what they do.
Right.
But they are so big into the Kentucky Derby there, which is not held in Lexington, it's held in
Oh,
Louisville, and
uh-huh.
after a while, I had to lean over to my niece and say, "They don't this isn't where the Kentucky Derby is, right?" And she said, "No." But I would say it was just really it was odd to see how into the Kentucky it would be like, going to, I don't know, someplace in Long Island and talking about how great Yankee Stadium is all the time. Like, "Yankee Stadium, this isn't where Yankee Stadium." Yeah, but
Right.
still, you know,
Right.
I didn't get it. And there's also probably because there's nothing to do in Lexington, and I had told my niece, "Pick out some stuff to do," and she's like, "There's nothing to do here," and I just thought she was being a hipster. She's, I don't know, 23,
Right.
25, and she's super cool, like, she's in a band, and she's, you know, living the super cool, young single girl life, and she's like, This is a lame town," and I'm like, "There's gotta be something to do," so I looked up things to do in Lexington, and these are the 4 things that there are to do in Lexington, according to the internet. I mean, thing
All
number
the
1
information in the world.
right. Thing number 1, there is a pharmacy that looks like a mortar and pestle. You can go look at that. Thing number 2, There is a Dixie Cup water tower, a water tower
What
that's made out
water
of
tower?
Dixie Cup. Number 3, Jim Varney's grave.
Right.
And number 4, the original stuffed cocaine bear, which wasn't from Kentucky. It was from Tennessee. So in order, the first 2 are impractically lame. So when she came over the next morning, I'm like, "Hey, I checked the internet. You said this is lame, and we could go to Jim Varney's grave. How dare you say this is a lame town?"
How
For
dare
listeners
you
who
take
don't know,
Ernest goes to Kentucky and
right? That's what I was gonna say. I didn't mention that Jim Varney played Ernest, and we did a little research here before the show, and also on our phones at the time. We can't find out what Jim Varney quote really unquote advertised. And I think that's can you imagine being such a successful all around pitch man? Like he worked for
yeah,
everybody and then getting your own series of movies out of this one dumb character that you do like
yeah,
so I asked my wife, I'm like, so what was his big commercial? And she's like, well, he was in the Trout uh dairy commercials. And I'm like, I've never even heard of Trout Dairy. I didn't see
yeah,
any Trout Dairy commercials. And so then we started looking up all of his commercials, and they were all for these, like, local car dealerships or these
right,
local discount stores and so he may have been, just a national local hero, which
right.
is pretty cool. I gotta
And
say that's cooler than I thought it was gonna be. So maybe next week I'll have a full report on Jim Varney if I remember
having
to
that
get to it.
or being a journeyman pitchman
Right?
that, you know, actually it's kind of refreshing to think about because of everything that is so like hyper now and trendy and that sort of thing. We talk a lot about that. But like he just created a character that probably evolved a lot over his duration. You know, it's like, no, be the earnest guy, be the, you know,
Yeah, I think he
and
was probably a stand-up comedian. I don't know that for a fact, but that feels
yeah,
like
yeah, that feels right. And yeah, kind of like Pee Wee Herman, you know, just
yeah,
kind of created this character that just became more and more beloved to the point where, yeah, how many movies was he in? There's probably like
like 12.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah, yeah. Made a good name for herself. I love that.
Yeah, and well, but yes, and but also, I think that if you hired him for a commercial, you kinda got ripped off because nobody remembers what your product was. They just like, "Know what I mean, Vern? Know what I mean, Vern?
Yeah,
Know what I mean, Vern?" I mean, it did get tedious by the early '90s, I'll admit.
yeah.
I didn't ever need to hear it again. But then he did Ernest went to jail, and Ernest goes saves Halloween, Ernest saves Christmas, and God bless him. God bless Jim Varney, and I did not go see his grave.
Oh man, that's the biggest disappointment of all.
Yeah, you know what? We ended up, just staying in the house. We stayed in this beautiful Airbnb that it was so well appointed, and it had a balcony overlooking the street, and if I have cigars in a balcony overlooking the street, it's gonna be really hard to get me out of the house,
Yeah,
unless there's a bus, because I'm also going to be drinking plenty of whiskey.
right.
The other thing, of
Ugh.
course, that we didn't go to see was the cocaine bear, but we did look up the cocaine bear, and I'm about to disappoint you. The cocaine bear story is this bear came across this cocaine, he ate it, he had a heart attack, he died. The end. He didn't go
The
on some
end.
kind of rampage, which is just so I would rather have not known. I would
Right, right.
I would rather have not known that I was near the cocaine bear than find out that I was near the cocaine bear, but did not care about the cocaine bear. So now I
But as we discussed, it's still the movie was still based on a real story.
vaguely, yeah,
I mean, just the very first part of that story, not what happened afterwards. It's just
right,
kind of
like
like it's kind of like a multiversal story. In this universe, he eats the cocaine and dies. And
right.
that's in a parallel universe, he eats the cocaine and goes on a rampage and makes for a great story.
Right, so if I can give an analogy, it's like, in this universe, there are galaxies far, far away.
Yeah.
But in another universe, there was a galaxy far, far away, and they had Star Wars in it.
Yes.
That is essentially the difference between Cocaine Bear the fact and Cocaine Bear the movie. But still good for the Cocaine Bear people. I tried to write stuff down, but I wrote it in pencil, and I can't
You still
make
can't
it
find a
down.
pen?
No, I found the pen, but then I lost the thoughts. So I talked about um, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, besides the reason that I knew about the dog and got so incensed, was
Yeah.
because I wanna start bringing up the occasional news story that is fun. Again, I used to do this, kinda Wayback Machine.
Yeah. You would pull up like 100, just say 100 years ago.
Right, right, and I haven't done that for a while, but there's a story that's coming out on, and I guess we're 20 minutes in. Let's do the commercial. Each week
Yeah.
we are sponsored by a company that we like, and this week it's me. Um, I have a story coming out, I think, on Sunday about this woman who uh, who got married. It's a lame story. It's one of my postcard stories, right? But the postcard is from Florence, and I can't remember where they sent it to. Oh, they sent it to New Brighton, New York. And I looked up New Brighton, New York
Florence? Okay.
at the turn of the century, um, Staten Island. And why change it to Staten Island from New Brighton?
It,
I can't.
New Brighton, Staten.
Staten
Yeah.
Island. So
Yeah.
this is a wealthy family who had their beach house essentially on Brighton, they probably guess Brighton Beach
New Brighton.
in New
Yeah.
York, or Staten Island now as it is known. And what was really cool about it is in the postcard, it said, "We haven't seen your parents, but we hope to bump into them." And, like, the idea of bumping into someone in Florence in 1921 or whenever it was. Oh, it wasn't. It was it was right before. That's what made it interesting. It was right before World War One started. So
Yeah.
it was like, let's say they sent the card in May and Franz Ferdinand got killed in June or something. There were like
Yeah.
18 days left before the entire continent was consumed by war. And I just am always fascinated about, as you look back at these things, it's like, having a wonderful time going to see Prince Ferdinand later. I mean, like,
Right. Right. Right.
the ignorance of history before the fact is one of my favorite things to think about and talk about.
Hmm.
I've actually written about it before. The first time I wrote about it was we were on our way home from New Jersey. It was Christmas time, and we were coming south on Route 95 through Philadelphia, and we were cruising. And on the northbound side, it was a parking lot, like but like for miles, like for 5 or 6 miles. And after a while, I said, "Oh my god," because it broke up. It was like 6 miles. Let's say it's 6 miles. And I said, "Oh my god, I feel bad for those people," because this was pre-Google.
Yeah.
I said, "I feel bad for those people because they have no idea what's coming up ahead of them." And
Yeah.
my daughter Megan said, "I wonder if they're saying the same thing about us."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And and ever since then, I've really been very interested in, like, foreshadowing in real life. I've written about that
Yeah.
several times, and this idea that everything is foreshadowing if you wait long enough, like, because it either pans out or it doesn't. "Oh,
Right.
I
Right.
I like the color red," and then I get hit by a bus later on. So,
Yeah.
that essay will be out on Sunday, and I would like it if you visited, bytonyrusso.com, where you can get all of my essays, and I'm going to break some news here.
Okay.
I'm having trouble writing stories about this part of. So I write about funeral business for my day job for a living. For those of you who don't know that, there are people who are called death doulas. I don't know if you know that name.
Ooh, that sounds familiar.
No, it's like a birth doula, except the opposite.
Yeah.
So they come and they light candles and they,
The
whatever.
exact opposite. Yeah.
And I've been wanting to write about them, but I don't really have a place for it in my magazine. So I'm going to start to do that on Substack as well. And I've got a feature that'll be out in a couple of weeks about the Chattanooga Death Collective. And, it's so easy, especially so we were just in Kentucky, I was just in Lexington, and it's so easy to be me and to just be prejudiced against everything that's not exactly like you. Um,
Right.
but you talk to, the thing I like about death doulas is they are all hippies. So like, no matter
Yeah.
how far south they are, and I mean, they're technically witches, so they're a little bit
Ooh.
afraid because they're technically witches. But the this kind of movement is occurring all over the place. So I'm gonna be writing about that more because it's really interesting to me and it's not interesting to my readers. So
Yeah.
I need new readers.
So, so it's something interesting happened just this week yesterday. I had a friend who was at work and got the call that want to talk about like foreshadowing and death doulas and stuff like that. She's at work, she's hanging out with some friends, and she got a call that one of her childhood friends had passed away.
Oh,
Young girl, new mother, like terrible story. And it was one of those things where, like, of course, I want to console, I want to be a shoulder to lean on, and that sort of thing. But we're also at work,
right.
and it's and like a little bit of cry, pull yourself together. She's like, "This is crazy," like that sort of thing. And I found myself saying, "I heard that when you die, your brain releases DMT into your body, like naturally. And it's the most euphoric experience of life. So, death apparently, and I probably just saw this online. So, some whack job talking about it, who
Right.
knows? And so the idea is, we're all very afraid of death, but in actuality, it's the most yeah, like the best thing that happens
To you.
in to you in your life. Have you ever come across that? Is that anything? Is there any validity or
I've heard that, but probably from the same they that you heard it from. Um,
yeah?
yeah, that's not, I mean, I'll probably hear it for some death doulas once I start talking to them more often because I
Well,
did, go ahead.
that's what I think is interesting. It's like how do you console without just being I don't know typical or without saying it's going to be okay, right? Like
Yeah, no.
there's a lot to that.
Well, there are whole programs. There are people who talk about that. It's important for you to be on good terms with your own death, and it makes the consolation easier. So if you're prepared for like my kids, because I'm weird, you know, they know that when I die, everything's okay. Like I'm ready for it.
Right.
I always tell them this, and this is not an invitation to any psychopaths out there. But I always say, if you find out that I got tortured to death by some psychopath, I want you to know that my last thought was like, "Ah, so that was like," you know? So don't feel bad. And, and that's what I've said to my children. I'm like, don't feel bad when I die. When I mean, feel you can miss me, but don't worry about how I felt when I died. Because how I felt when I died was, I'm sad it's over, but now I know what it was like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
no matter how I died.
Right.
Although it drives my mother crazy. If I could choose, I would die of, like, cancer, like, something long, so I had time. Like, I
Yeah.
would hate everybody's like, "I just wanna drop dead in my sleep." I wanna know that this is my
Yeah.
last bowl of ice cream for a fact. I don't
Yes.
wanna live my life as if every moment is my last. Nobody can do that, it's fucking exhausting. I wanna know when my last moment is, so that way I can live my life leading up to that last.
See that. Yeah. That's a good perspective. Different than most, I would say. But,
Look at me. I'm dying of cancer. I'm if I don't have a heart attack for my 60th birthday, I'm dying of cancer when I'm 80. So
yeah, yeah. Well, and I feel like that in the current state of the world, there's a little bit of YOLO. I joke about in summer we're up at the beach, like I said, up in Wildwood. Yeah, get a little crispy, get a little burnt. I'm like, you know what? if I'm gonna die, I want to have a little bit of a suntan, right? The chemicals in sunscreen are maybe as bad as being exposed to the sun itself. So I don't know. We'll figure it out.
All right. Well, we are coming up against it, and I have a heart out, so I'm going to say I got nothing. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, remember, until next time at the beach.
It's happy hour whenever you say.